welcome back. Today we bring you another bone-chilling tale of trust and betrayal that will shock you to the core. This story will make you think twice about who you trust and remind you of the importance of honesty and clear boundaries. Let's get into the story. The horrible image you are seeing right now needs explaining. The blurred section of this image is the lifeless body of Sukhjit Singh. A hammer and a knife were found next to him, making the scene extremely gruesome. Here you see the police and homicide detectives, but strangely you also see Sukhjit's wife, Ramandeep Kaur, and their two sons in the same room. Why the children were in the same room as their father's lifeless body is beyond me. Ramandeep Kaur informed the police that her husband was the victim of a robbery. Was she telling the truth, or was she hiding something? How a British citizen with a successful life in England met such a brutal end in a tiny village of India? To answer all those questions, we must delve into the past. The year was 2001, when a 16-year-old Sukhjit Singh finished grade 12 in India and migrated to Slough, a town to the west of London. Here he stayed with his sister Kulwinder and her husband Kuldip, who ran newspaper delivery vans. Sukhjit was a very dedicated and hard-working individual, and this dedication was the key to his early success. After moving to Slough, Sukhjit ventured into business, opening a pizza shop and working as a contractor. It was during one of his building projects in 2002, specifically while constructing a house for an Italian client in Slough, that he met Ramandeep. Ramandeep, born in the United Kingdom, came from an upper-middle-class family. She enjoyed a privileged upbringing and received an excellent education. She was the second of three daughters of businessman Paul Singh Mann and Amarjit Kaur Mann. Ramandeep, who was 20 years old at the time, was a resident of the same neighborhood where Sukhjit was engaged in his building project. At that time, Ramandeep was working at a shop in Slough. The paths of Sukhjit and Ramandeep crossed, leading to a relationship that began to bloom amidst the backdrop of their shared environment. However, this union was not looked upon favorably by Ramandeep's family. But Ramandeep put her foot down and decided to marry Sukhjit. In 2005, the couple tied the knot at a Gurdwara in Slough, with Ramandeep's parents in attendance. The marriage between Sukhjit and Ramandeep appeared perfect to those who knew them. A close friend of the couple remarked that Sukhjit was deeply in love with his wife and felt incredibly fortunate to have married her. The couple jointly managed a pizza joint in Slough, England. They resided in Slough for several years before selling their business and relocating to Derby to raise their two sons, Arjun, born in 2007, and Aryan, who arrived 3 years later in 2010. The large Indian community in Derby provided more business opportunities for the couple. Initially, the couple considered moving to London, the UK's capital. However, after careful consideration, they realised they could earn more money in Derby. Ramandeep, who studied graphic design in college, applied to a large company and took on a second job to boost the family's income. Sukhjit, meanwhile, decided to establish a logistics company, which he named Arjun Transport, after his first son. Ramandeep was seen as a devoted and hard-working mother. In Derby, they lived in a middle-class home and enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle. According to close friends, with time Ramandeep's family accepted their union and became very supportive, despite them being against it initially. Sukhjit was a devout Sikh. He attended the Guru Arjan Dev Temple in Derby every Sunday and volunteered as a project manager at the city's National Sikh Museum. Gurpal Singh, a colleague of Sukhjit at the museum, described him as a very dedicated man. From all outward appearances, Sukhjit and Ramandeep seemed to get along very well, with no visible signs of marital strife. To everyone observing from the outside, they appeared to be a loving couple with a bright future ahead of them. However, the seemingly perfect relationship was hiding deep cracks beneath the surface, and the marriage that looked destined to last forever started to show some cracks. It appears that the couple faced internal struggles. Ramandeep seemed to exert a significant amount of control over Sukhjit, often convincing him to follow her wishes. People in the Sikh community disapproved of her behavior, which sometimes clashed with their traditions. Ramandeep had a taste for the finer things in life: expensive clothes, jewelry, and designer handbags. She was quite vain and loved being the center of attention, as noted by another friend of the couple. But Sukhjit was infatuated with his wife and went to great lengths to please her. Someone close to the couple mentioned that Ramandeep always got her way and often behaved toxically towards her husband. At that time, Sukhjit and Ramandeep were going through a rough patch, as it is quite normal in most marriages. Sukhjit decided to take his family on a vacation to ease the tension, and it was this decision that changed their lives forever. In November 2015, the family took a vacation to Dubai, staying at the home of Sukhjit's close friend, Sukhjit Singh. Sukhjit and Gurpreet had known each other since their school days, and Sukhjit affectionately referred to Gurpreet as his brother, despite not being related by blood. Gurpreet, a truck driver who also worked in construction, took a few days off to join his friend's family on outings during their stay. They took numerous photos together, posting them on social media to celebrate their reunion. The vacation eventually came to an end, and the family returned home. Sukhjit detected a definite change in his wife, as she became less controlling and more pleasant, and he felt that at last his marriage was saved. A year after coming back from Dubai in 2016, Ramandeep planned a month-long vacation. This time she chose Sukhjit's village in India. When Ramandeep shared her plans with her husband, his heart filled with joy at the thought of his wife and kids visiting his hometown. The place where he was born and raised had gathered so many great memories and spent some of the happiest days of his life. The whole family was excited about this upcoming trip. The plan was to spend the holidays at her mother-in-law's house in the village of Basantpur in Uttar Pradesh, India. Sukhjit's wife and kids reached India and were welcomed warmly by the family. This was the first time the kids visited India, and they were loving it. Ramandeep also invited Gurpreet to Sukhjit's home. It was a bit odd, but since Sukhjit considered Gurpreet his best friend and thought nothing of his wife's invitation. The vacation was going better than planned, so they decided to extend their stay. As the trip progressed, Sukhjit began to notice odd interactions between his wife and his best friend. Although he didn't voice his suspicions immediately, he began to observe the two more closely to ensure he wasn't imagining things. The following month, on August 22nd, when he could no longer set aside his doubts, Sukhjit finally gave voice to his suspicions and confronted his wife. Despite her attempts to talk things out, Sukhjit uncovered the truth that his wife and best friend were hiding a secret love affair, which began a year earlier in 2015, when they visited Dubai. At this point, the family, including Gurpreet, was still at his mother's house in Basantpur. However, upon discovering his wife's betrayal, Sukhjit confided in friends and relatives about his discovery. They advised him to end the marriage immediately to free himself from his unfaithful wife. Almost everyone tried to convince him to end the marriage, but Sukhjit, who was still in love with Ramandeep and couldn't bring himself to end the relationship. After all, they have known each other for 13 years, had fallen in love, got married, had 2 children, and had built a successful life together. Sukhjit was deeply shaken and never expected such betrayal from his wife and best friend. His friends and relatives thought he was making a mistake, believing that delaying the separation was only prolonging his suffering, but Sukhjit felt he could save his marriage. He planned to resolve the matter upon their return to England. The day of September 2nd, 2016, started like any other day as the family woke up early. The family of 4 had breakfast together, and the kids went outside to play in the afternoon just like they did most days. However, it was the evening that changed the fate of them all. Ramandeep decided to cook biryani, the family's favorite dish. But little did they know that Ramandeep had laced the dish with sedatives in order to incapacitate the whole family. Soon after finishing the meal, Sukhjit and the youngest son started to feel very tired and went to bed. At this opportunity, Ramandeep let Gurpreet into the house, and together they executed their dreadful scheme. Ramandeep smothered Sukhjit with a pillow, while Gurpreet struck him multiple times with a hammer. Not stopping there, Ramandeep made a deep cut in Sukhjit's throat to ensure he was dead. Ramandeep and Gurpreet believed that no one had seen them commit this heinous crime, but someone very close to Ramandeep had seen it all. It was Arjun, her eldest son, who was 9-year-old, had actually not eaten the biryani as he wasn't hungry and had opted to eat some instant noodles instead and went to bed. Upon hearing the commotion, the 9-year-old had woken up to witness the entire horrific ordeal. Petrified, he pretended to stay asleep, so his presence went unnoticed by his mother and her lover. Once the nightmare was over and they left the room, terrified 9-year-old Arjun slowly got off from his bed and ran to his grandmother's house nearby, tearfully recounting the whole ordeal. Initially, his grandmother thought it was a bad joke, but seeing the fear in Arjun's eyes, she decided to call the police. Due to the village's remote location, the police took some time to arrive. Ramandeep pretended to be innocent, claiming a thief had broken into the house and committed the crime. She was unaware that her son had witnessed everything and would be a crucial witness against her. The police arrested Ramandeep upon arrival, but Gurpreet had fled the scene. He was later apprehended at the airport while attempting to board a flight back to Dubai. During the investigation, the police discovered that Ramandeep and Gurpreet aimed to collect $2 million from Sukhjit's life insurance and another $100,000 in assets. At the current exchange rate, this amounted to nearly £2.7 million. The couple had planned to start a new life with this money. Indian investigators revealed that the lovers decided to commit the crime in India, believing it would be easier to evade justice in a country they considered less efficient in law enforcement compared to England or Dubai. That's why this whole trip to India was planned, and the reason why she invited Gurpreet to join them at her mother-in-law's house. Ramandeep and Gurpreet were formally charged with Sukhjit's murder and detained to await their trials. Despite the overwhelming evidence, including her own son's testimony against her, Ramandeep's family stood by her. They believed it was a scheme by Sukhjit's family to frame her, insisting that Arjun, their 9-year-old son, was lying about what he saw. 7 months after Ramandeep's arrest, her family managed to secure her release on bail, the amount of which was not disclosed. This allowed her to remain free while awaiting trial, though she was not permitted to leave the country. It was almost unheard of in India for someone accused of such a serious crime to be granted bail. But in a corrupt world, money often buys freedom. Ramandeep's family used their wealth and political connections to attempt to free her from justice. They reportedly spent over £100,000 on lawyers alone. Despite their relentless efforts, justice eventually prevailed. The trial of the lovers began 7 years after the crime, in October 2023. The prosecution's key witness was Arjun, now 16 years old. His testimony was crucial. He recounted the horrific night when he was sleeping beside his father and woke up to see his mother suffocating Sukhjit with a pillow. Paralyzed with fear, Arjun pretended to be asleep, terrified of what might happen if he reacted. He silently witnessed the entire ordeal and fled to his grandmother's house as soon as his mother and Gurpreet left the room. In court, Gurpreet confessed to the murder, but claimed that Ramandeep was the mastermind. He stated that she had orchestrated the entire plan and instructed him to procure the knife and hammer used in the attack. Ultimately, the court found the couple guilty of the crime. Sukhjit Singh received a life sentence and was fined 300,000 rupees. Ramandeep Kaur Mann, on the other hand, was condemned to death by hanging. Her legal team quickly appealed the ruling, striving to have her sentence reduced to life imprisonment. As of the recording of this video, the appeal has not yet been successful. After the trial, Gurpreet was sent to a medium-security men's prison, while Ramandeep was transported to Shahanur district prison, infamous for its overcrowding and deplorable conditions. Ramandeep's life had undergone a dramatic transformation, shifting from comfort and luxury to the grueling conditions of one of India's worst prisons. Her daily routine now involves waking up at 6 a.m. to queue for a cold water shower, taken with a tap and bucket in an exceedingly filthy bathroom. The prison, which is designed to house only 511 inmates, holds nearly 2,000, including about 1,300 men, who are kept in a separate section from the women. Ramandeep is not only the sole foreign prisoner, but also the only inmate sentenced to death. Her lawyers continue to appeal her sentence, but the process is anticipated to take several years. Since her arrest, Ramandeep has shown no signs of remorse. Instead, she has maintained an attitude of arrogance, seemingly convinced of her superiority over everyone else. In her first interview following the arrest, Ramandeep described her situation as hellish, stating it was the worst experience of her life. She complained of feeling utterly alone, which is a perplexing claim given the overcrowded conditions. She also lamented the abysmal quality of the food and overall living conditions, stating that all she could do was cry. Ramandeep was particularly offended that no one from the British High Commission had visited her since her sentencing, considering it a slight against her as a British citizen. During the interview, Ramandeep once again asserted her innocence, claiming that Sukhjit's family had orchestrated the crime to prevent him from selling his 21 acres of land in India. She refused to provide details about her marriage or her affair with Gurpreet, her husband's best friend who had helped her commit the murder. The interview concluded with Ramandeep expressing her anguish over not having seen her children since her arrest, claiming that this was her greatest source of pain and sorrow. Following the tragic events, the couple's children went to live with their paternal uncle in London. As the years pass, the memory of the crime remains vivid in the minds of those affected. Arjun and Aryan, now growing up without their parents, face a future shaped by the tragic events of that fateful night. The support of their extended family and the broader community plays a crucial role in their healing process. They strive to move forward, but the shadow of their parents' actions will always loom large over their lives. Arjun, the eldest son who had witnessed the entire crime, stated that he no longer wants any contact with his mother and will never forgive her for what she did. The trauma of witnessing such a heinous act had left deep scars on the young boy, shaping his views and emotions profoundly. This story of Ramandeep serves as a chilling reminder of the devastating effects of betrayal and greed. The impact of her actions rippled through her family and community, leaving a legacy of pain and mistrust. It underscores the fragility of trust and the heavy toll that deceit can take on relationships and lives. The saga of Ramandeep, Sukhjit, and Gurpreet will remain a poignant chapter in the annals of crime, a stark illustration of the depths to which human ambition and treachery can sink. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We bring new cases for you every week. Until next time, take care of yourself.